My name is Ryan Bull. I'm a senior Middle East North Africa analyst at the RANE Network, and today I'll be talking about the imperatives and the objectives of the various actors in the ongoing Hamas-Israel war. First, we should break down who the main actors are. We have Hamas, the militant group that has ruled the Gaza Strip since 2007, Israel, Hezbollah, Iran, and the United States. Now, we already know what the Israelis' military objective is. It's to remove Hamas as the rulers of the Gaza Strip and replace them with some as-yet undetermined authority. But what was Hamas's objectives in their sudden incursion into southern Israel on October 7th? Well, Hamas is coming at Israel from a position of weakness. Hamas only has 25,000 to 30,000 fighters compared to the hundreds of thousands of Israeli troops. They also are technologically inferior to the Israel Defense Forces. So Hamas had an objective to force the Israelis into taking military and political actions that Israel would otherwise not do. Now, this is classic asymmetric warfare. When there is a force like Hamas, a militant group or an underground group that is facing down a militarily or economically superior force like Israel, their main tactical objectives are to provoke overreactions from that stronger power. And these overreactions generally use up military, economic, political, and diplomatic resources in a way that weakens that stronger power and puts them closer to equal footing. So Hamas's incursion into southern Israel on October 7th was designed to cause maximum carnage in order to force the Israelis to carry out a policy that they had been resisting for years, namely a full-scale invasion of the Gaza Strip. Now, this may not seem like it serves Hamas's purposes, but for an asymmetric group like Hamas, an invasion of Gaza does serve some of their wider geopolitical purposes. Hamas's strategy with Israel is to try to provoke a breakdown in relations between Israel and its key allies in the West, particularly in the United States. The most viable way to do so is to cause the Israelis to carry out military actions that cause significant civilian casualties in the Palestinian territories, which a Gaza invasion is almost certain to do. As a result, Washington becomes more critical of Israel, less likely to support it, and over time, that creates a space in their relationship that Hamas can then exploit, either to restart negotiations or to attempt to take over other territories in the Palestinian territories and carry out future attacks on Israel. So that's Hamas's overall objectives. So let's look to the north, to Hezbollah. Hezbollah has been carrying out a border war with Israel, intentionally striking limited targets along the frontier between Lebanon and Israel without using their much larger rocket and missile arsenal that could hit major cities throughout Israel and potentially even overwhelm their air defenses. But why is Hezbollah doing this? Hezbollah serves primarily as a deterrence to Israel on behalf of Iran. In fact, Hezbollah's primary strategic objective for almost 30 years has to serve as a warning or a red line for Israeli action against Iran itself, particularly if Israel was ever to attack Iran's nuclear program. If Hezbollah enters the war at scale, it means that their deterrent capability is used up, at least in the short term, fighting a very expensive war with Israel, where Hezbollah doesn't really have any clean military objectives. Hezbollah, for example, has no capabilities to take and hold Israeli territory, and while they may be able to cause a great deal of damage to Israeli cities, that won't necessarily change the outcome of the Gaza ground invasion. So instead, Hezbollah's primary imperative is to act on its political objectives, which is to humiliate Israel, to showcase their solidarity with the Palestinian cause, and to continue to signal that if Israel does decide to escalate against Iran, both now and in the future, Hezbollah will serve as a powerful retaliatory option for the Iranians. Now let's look to the east, to Iran. Iran's objectives are similar to Hezbollah's in that their objectives are primarily political. After all, Iran does not share a border with Israel and is unable to take and hold Israeli territory. Plus, Israel has a nuclear deterrent, which, in the ultimate case, could be utilized against Iranian cities to cause widespread destruction. So instead, Iran is trying to build up the momentum that is being generated by the sympathy for the Gazans in order to pursue Iranian objectives throughout the region. And that means that Iran has to respond to both Israel and the United States, Israel's primary ally, without triggering a general war. This is being showcased in a pattern of harassment against U.S. troops in Syria and Iraq, as well as an attempted launch by the Houthis against Israel from Yemen. All of this builds up to the idea that Tehran is supporting the struggle without entering it in a way that could trigger a general war that would be disastrous for the energy markets, but also might result in a serious destabilization of Iran if it involves an extended conflict with the United States. Finally, the United States, which has sent 2 aircraft carrier battle groups to the region to deter Iran. Like Iran, the United States' objectives in this conflict are primarily political. It wishes to showcase its commitment to Israel while also demonstrating its resolve to remain in the region in case of crisis. It doesn't want to create a power vacuum caused by its retrenchment from the Middle East to Asia and Europe in the face of rising threats from Russia and China. So the United States is also disinterested in a general war and is hoping that if the harassment campaign continues, it'll be able to respond proportionally by striking the launch sites of some of this harassment and or ignoring some of this harassment if it doesn't result in significant American casualties. But the United States is prepared to enter on behalf of Israel should the situation evolve into a regional war. While none of the most powerful actors like Hezbollah, Iran, and the United States are seeking a general war, they may nevertheless end up on an escalation ladder caused by mistakes and miscalculations that force them into a cycle of retaliation that eventually cause the general war that the region fears.